as a young historian, we probably kind of got started around the same time as I started my PhD program. And one of the things that compelled me to do work on Black Vietnam veterans was their erasure from archives. You know, I went to the Vietnam archive in Texas, and that's one of the largest in the United States on Vietnam veterans in America, and very few, if any, Black veteran in world histories. So, you know, I decided to change that myself, like do that change, right? But I'm curious, what was revealed, you know, I'm curious as a historian, what did you reveal through the FOIA data? What did you get from the VA as far as disability benefits for Black veterans since 2001?
Yeah. So I guess one, at first we were like, we want to FOIA the VA from from its founding, right? Which we actually have since then, but we're still waiting on that data. And so we started with looking at FOIA data from 2001 to 2020. We had to litigate for that, but we were able to show that there were statistically significant and sustained disparities in access to veterans benefits that were uniquely affecting Black vets. And so other minority groups weren't as affected as Black vets. Black women specifically were the most marginalized in these numbers. As much as a 29% disparity in denial rates for PTSD was one of the more major findings that we were able to show. And that was in the most recent years that we were able to pull, right? And so that was revelatory, and we were able to then use that data, and in the work that we were doing, the coalition work that we were doing on the Hill in the 117th Congress, it gave us a lot of power for the first time, because we don't just have anecdotal stories of really unjust happenings, you know, that had been happening for decades and Black vets had been talking about for decades. We had concrete internal VA data that they said for decades that they did not have, proving that there were racial disparities. And we wanted to see action take place. And so one of the first things that we were able to get accomplished through the attainment of that FOIA data was an effort led by Senator Warnock, bill to have a government accountability office study on racial disparities in benefits done that the Biden administration passed in December of 2021. That study actually gets published at the end of July of this year. And so it's only going to look at the last 10 years of data. But another thing that came up in a lot of this work too were whistleblowers, internal VA whistleblowers who said the VA has actually done internal reports over the course of several decades. They knew that there were racial disparities, that they buried those reports, and that they were negligent in their duty to actually address these disparities. There are whistleblowers that have come forward that have said that VA actually has concrete data dating back decades, even further, you know, back to the 1940s, really, that showcase the breadth of racial disparities, and that they're still hiding their hand about it, right? And so we're still working collaboratively with Yale to try to get our hands on that data.